used to be a slave, kept under the thumb of the master, the bastard that made me hunt down my own kin.
Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome. Let's have a look at Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition, a la the penultimate story-driven RPG experience with branching quest paths, multiple choices and solutions, as well as very interesting turn-based combat mechanics. The game is single player with multiplayer capabilities up to 3 other players. The original game was released on the 14th of September 2017, with the Definitive Edition update dropping on the 31st of August 2018, almost a year later, and is free of charge to the original owners of the game. Much appreciation and kudos to the developers. It is of course developed and published by Larian Studios. I've logged about 334 hours into this game total, playing on the hardest difficulty as well as the easiest in both single player and multiplayer scenarios. We'll break this video down into 4 sections: the options and settings, gameplay features, gameplay loop, and the overall feel and verdict of the game. Let's start with the overall feel and verdict. Overall, I absolutely enjoyed DOS 2. The Definitive Edition made even more lovable changes, improving some gameplay balance to allow more viability for different classes on higher difficulties, as well as optimization and improvements to certain locations as well as skills. There was also the introduction of story mode for those who aren't necessarily looking for a challenge, but are more interested in the deep lore and intertwined cast of companions available in the game. There are of course graphical enhancements and increased fidelity for some of the game's more intense scenes. For example, the infamous oil blob fight would cause my frame rate to drop from 60 to a mere 12 or lower. On the Definitive Edition, the frame rate is able to stay above 40 at worst. Changes like these are extremely welcome. If you're a fan of the first game, DOS 1, and or are familiar with the rest of Larian's games, there is absolutely no reason for you not to pick this game up. It expands upon everything that DOS 1 does and improves upon it. There were even certain gameplay mechanics that DOS 2 introduces which at first seems a little bit weird if not frustrating, but as you spend more time in the world of Rivellon, you'll soon find yourself going with the flow and enjoying the heck out of combat, quests, dialogue, and even puzzle solving. Would I recommend this game for a price tag of $45 US, which is 63 Australian dollars? The answer is a resounding yes. This is essentially a AAA quality title, and the developers have worked hard to fix and address balancing and bugs, and generally do a very good job at listening to community feedback. The game also offers a Divine Edition, which includes digital art books, map, soundtrack, and art pack for 60 US dollars, which is 84 Australian. Of course, the game doesn't include any microtransactions at all and is a fully packed single or multiplayer experience with a deep story backed by strong combat mechanics as support and an interesting cast of characters. If you are not a fan of story-driven games or are wary of turn-based combat, I would likely wait until a sale before picking the game up, as the game does offer some quick action such as arena mode for you to play around with the combat, as it is truly a one-of-a-kind. However, if choices galore and seeing meaningful impacts on your story based on the choices that you make, as well as having very interesting combat mechanics to complement the story, appeals to you, then I wholeheartedly recommend this game. DOS 2 offers a wide variety of video settings, from a wide range of resolutions to full screen or windowed mode, each and every setting easily adjustable to tailor your experience for your PC. It even has various slider bars for audio settings for different mechanics in the game, ranging from dialogue to music to even UE sounds. On my current setup, the i5 7400 CPU at 3GHz quad core and a NVIDIA 1070 with 8GB of video RAM and 16GB of RAM, I was able to run all the settings on Ultra whilst experiencing buttery smooth performance. The game is very well optimized, with my CPU clocking in at about 20 to 35% and GPU at a steady 20% usage. Video settings aside, we also have fully rebindable controls, and there are a lot of them. I didn't find the need to rebind the controls save for one button in multiplayer, which is pinging a location with your mouse. I had to change that from backspace to H so it's more easily accessible. Other than that, all the other controls made sense and were intuitive. Gameplay features. The main features in DOS 2 are a deep story, interesting cast of characters and companions, varied and interesting RPG mechanics in terms of classes and skills to choose from, puzzles and problems with multiple solutions, and turn-based combat with skills that affect one another, as well as multiplayer co-op. There is also the Game Master mode and Arena mode, though I didn't really dabble into those too much. This section will of course be spoiler free. First up is the deep story. There is a grand overarching narrative where the players amongst the other main cast are chosen as Godwoken. As you progress further into the game, more and more of your god tier powers unlock, which require the use of source points that you can gather from various means. The world of Rivellon is in danger, and there are a few choices to be made. Will you be the new tyrant ruling with absolute power, or will you become the hero that Rivellon seeks? It's sort of for you to decide. The main story does take a front and center sort of seat for most of the action and time in Divinity Original Sin 2, so it's never relegated to the sidelines too much. The interesting cast of characters and companions are due to the fact that many names are repeated throughout the game. Alexander, Dallas, Lucian, Arhu, Brachus Rex, these are just some of the names that spring to mind immediately, and each of them carry hefty weight, particularly if you're coming from a past title. Throughout the game you'll be dealing with them quite frequently, and seeing them make their plays and showing their hand at various parts of the story can be quite interesting. Characters aside, there are also the companions who act as other main casts in the game. Sabeel, the Red Prince, Lohse, Ivan, the Beast, Fane. Each and every one of them have a story that ultimately ties into the overarching plot, and each of them serves a purpose that can affect the main quest line. You can play as any one of them at any time, and you will also obtain your own quest log tailored to your character, which in multiplayer can lead to some serious roleplay elements, particularly when interests become conflicted. Each of them also comes with a unique set of innate skills. My favorite companion thus far would have to be Lohse. I'll just leave a little snippet of the song here, and should you find yourself choosing Lohse, hopefully you'll feel the same goosebumps that I felt when I first experienced this.
Listen, do you hear it? Listen, do you feel it? Listen, I'm calling you. Listen, you do know me. Listen, swing and roll me. Listen, I'm calling you.
Next, we have the list of classes and skills to choose from. You have your dual wielding, single-handed, two-handed, ranged combat skills, amongst other spellcasting skills like Aerotheurgy, allowing you to command lightning and teleportation at your fingertips, Hydrosophist, that's a weird word to say, allowing you to rain ice shards from the skies and heal your companions, or Necromancer, sucking out blood from nearby surfaces and gaining health from the damage that you do. Each and every skill is varied with different attributes, increasing their effectiveness. Strength will boost some of your warfare powers, intelligence will boost your spellcasting powers, and so on. Without going into it too in depth, the character screen and UI does a fantastic job of breaking down what your character is able to do in terms of damage, dodging chance, armor, and so on, without it overwhelming you with information. Aside from the skills that you cast and attributes that empower your character, there are also unique talents that each character can pick depending on the skills that you've upgraded, and each granting you a perk amongst the lines of food that you eat is twice as beneficial, being able to cast spells 5 meters further, resurrecting with full health, and so on. With these skills at your disposal, you inevitably face quests, puzzles, and problems throughout the game. Each and every one of them have a unique solution. For example, in the starting location of Fort Joy, I can think of five or more ways to escape the area, ranging from simply murdering everyone to finding more intricate ways by talking to certain people and receiving help in escaping. Puzzles like these are dotted throughout the game, and most of them are optional as far as I'm aware. They can be very large puzzles or very small ones. Essentially, if a door can't be opened, you can pick its lock, break it down, find another way around, or have someone open it for you. Divinity is about choice, and Larian does a very good job in providing the players with a wide variety of ways to solve a problem. Now onto the turn-based combat. Overall, it is very good. Perhaps it's one of the most enjoyable parts of the game for me. There are a few complaints here and there for the honor difficulty, as sometimes enemies with evasive auras and whatnot can really throw a wrench into your enjoyment, but that aside, skills interact with one another, such as rested preventing a character from being crippled. Elements also interact with one another, and perhaps this is the holy grail of the whole Divinity Original Sin franchise. It's extremely fun to see oil light a flame and explode nearby oil and poison barrels, to see lightning interact with water and stunning anyone standing atop it, or even for oil to just slow characters down. Status effects, unlike the previous game, are now completely mitigated, provided that you have physical or magical armor left. The previous game relied on rolling a dice with your bodybuilding skill to avoid things like being knocked down, but in DOS 2, if you have just even one physical armor left after being hit by a knockdown, your character will remain on his or her feet. It's an interesting change that took a little bit of getting used to, but does make DOS 2 stand out by itself instead of being a direct copy of DOS 1's mechanics.
Wait, why am I muted?
Finally, there is multiplayer and co-op. I don't think I could imagine Divinity Original Sin without it. I've played both games with a friend, and in 95% of the cases, the game works extremely well. In DOS 2, they even fixed some dialogue synchronization across players, as well as improving the mechanics of allowing one player to listen in onto another player's conversations with NPCs, ensuring that no one is left out should one player accidentally run too far ahead and trigger dialogue. Overall, multiplayer works extremely well, and if you're thinking about playing with a buddy, Divinity's got you covered. One thing I won't go into too much detail over is the Game Master and Arena modes. Game Master essentially allows you to make a map and run it like you would a game of Dungeons and Dragons, with dice rolling and similar, whilst utilizing Divinity's fantastic combat gameplay, whilst also giving the Dungeon Master a lot of freedom in terms of how NPCs behave and react. Arena allows you to drop into a skirmish after choosing some characters and fighting against other teams in an area, which can be quite a fun affair. Though the meat of DOS 2 does not lie in these two modes, it lies mostly in the campaign, where most of your time should be spent, in my opinion. Essentially, the gameplay loop of Divinity Original Sin 2 is to go to an area, take all the quests available and solve them, before moving on into the next area, all the while improving your character's strength and unraveling the plot. If this is the main dish in front of you, then the combat, side quests, characters, shops, and settings are various condiments spread out in front of you, each and every one serving to maximize the experience and to provide you with a satisfying bang for your buck. With 344 hours in the game already, there are still certain things that I have not discovered or completed, as DOS 2 is a very large game with many hidden secrets and hundreds if not thousands of different branching paths and quests that are simply impossible to cover in a single playthrough or review. I highly recommend trying the game out for yourself, whether for the story or the combat, and to pick up the game with a friend to play together if you can. Hats off to Larian Studios, you guys did a fantastic job on this one, and I can't wait to see what you'll brew up next. Other than that, thanks for watching.